Mini's renaissance of its US lineup has given us new generations of the classic Cooper 2-door and 4-door, the Cooper Convertible, and the Cooper Countryman. But what about the John Cooper Works or JCW versions? Well, I've got them all right here, so let's take them out on the road and see how they compare. Starting with the fastest and most expensive JCW, right here we have the 2025 JCW Countryman All-4. Over here is the one that started it all, the JCW 2-door. And then over there, we have the latest member of the family, the JCW Convertible.
Your entry point into the JCW lineup, the JCW 2-door, starts at $39,375 and is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder making 228 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic that puts power down to just the front wheels. 0 to 60 happens in 5.9 seconds, while JCW-specific sport brakes bring things back to a halt. You'll also find dynamic dampers in the suspension that mechanically aid in tightening things up in the curves, and paddle shifters with a boost mode activated via the left trigger for 10 seconds of about 10% additional horsepower. Next up, for $44,875 is the JCW Convertible, which drops the top and adds some weight for a slightly slower 0 to 60 time of 6.2 seconds. Everything else under the skin is pretty much the same here. Finally, the biggest JCW ever and the only one to ever be offered with all-wheel drive, the JCW Countryman All-4 starts at $48,075 and gives you 4 doors, all-wheel drive, and a higher tune to the turbo 4-cylinder, bringing output to 312 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 happens in 5.2 seconds.
So all of the 2025 Mini JCW models have very similar interiors, and that goes for the entire Mini lineup. This new dashboard setup is the same you'll find on the smaller 2- and 4-door, as well as the Convertible. However, with the Countryman being a ground-up redesign, this is a more proprietary design to this car, whereas if you go over into the 2-door and 4-door or the Convertible, that interior has elements and design themes from this interior, but tacked on to the outgoing Mini Cooper 2-door's interior. So in that car, you'll have horizontal air vents instead of the vertical air vents you have here, but you'll have the same sort of materials and really cool designs with these patterns and streaks of red here in the dashboard. The vegan black sporty leather here with the red stitching and the perforated seats. It all looks very nice. It's not exactly the highest quality interior in any of these models, but the way they've designed it makes it feel more expensive and more personal, more unique than really anything else out there. The main centerpiece of all of these interiors is the new 9.4-inch circular OLED display, which was developed in partnership with Samsung. So this screen is the standard on all models. It is a touchscreen. A lot of the functions that you'll normally find on hard buttons are here in the touchscreen. The graphics are sharp. I do like the sort of design of all the buttons and how it interacts. And based on earlier complaints I had heard about how slow to respond it was, they seem to have fixed that pretty much entirely here. I mean, this is really snappy. It's responding instantly to my fingertips. Other notable things in here are a wireless charge pad, this really interesting center console storage area with these little tabs, or this one big tab you use to pull that open. That kind of thing is really unique, and I really like how they're going in a different direction with this interior. You'll see more of that here on the steering wheel, where there's a strap very similar to this one that serves as the third spoke of your steering wheel. So again, just, thinking outside the box to make a less premium interior feel more premium and sporty. And as far as seat comfort goes here in the Countryman specifically, I'm actually quite comfortable. I was able to move the lumbar back into a position that doesn't feel like it's poking into my back, so that's good. I do feel like I can slide back as far as I want. We have the tilted telescoping steering wheel. Everything is right here where you need it, and we do have a head-up display in front. However, it is not a more advanced system that just projects up onto the windshield. It goes up onto this sort of plexiglass screen right in front of you, so, not as impressive as some others out there, but at least we have it, and it's on this model standard. So in the classic JCW 2-door, the main 2 changes you'll note for this year is, of course, the brand new interior that I've already shown you, but also we no longer get the manual transmission. Instead, this is just offered with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic, but it still has that short wheelbase go-kart goodness. I can whip it around these little roundabouts here in downtown Savannah with absolutely no problem, barely any body roll. It is just still the very, very fun car it has always been in a nice new updated wrapper. This is a go-kart for the streets, and if that is something you are after and you don't need 4 doors and you don't need to haul dogs in the back and you don't always carry big cargo around, I don't see why you don't just get this one. But what happens when you take the top off? Obviously, I had to keep the top down while driving the convertible because when in a convertible, why would you put the top up? Ooh, this thing is quick, y'all. And the lack of the manual transmission is made up for by the fact that we do have the convertible option here. It is just so much fun to have the open air experience of the two-door. It just works really well, and it makes up for, the lack of engagement you might have with a manual. I'm not really sad about it because this 7-speed dual clutch is pretty good. Off the line, it can hesitate, but once it's up to speed, it shifts lightning quick. No complaints once you are at speed. It is a pretty good match for this powertrain. And you can also put this in a go-kart drive mode by flicking up on the experiences toggle, which honestly in the normal core drive mode, it already feels like that. So bumping that up a few more notches is not a terrible thing if you are on the right pavement and the right circumstances. Out here on Tybee Island and all around Savannah, Georgia, the driving is not exactly curvy. There's a lot of straight roads, a lot of just hard right turns, nothing exactly worth pushing this car through, but based on the driving I've been doing, I've really enjoyed just the entire experience. I mean, there's just a lot of fun to be had here. Off the line, you will notice a tad bit of turbo lag and then a good bit of torque steer, but once you have it under control, you will really enjoy the very direct steering that the Mini JCWs offer. But now let's hop into the Countryman, the only JCW model offered with all-wheel drive, and let's see how that adds to the experience. So with the larger profile and the added all-wheel drive, this of course weighs a lot more than the regular two-door or even the convertible. So tossing this through the corners, it's not going to be quite as go-kart-like. I know go-kart is the key word here, but this is just a little bit heavier, a little bit less direct feeling. I guess it's a little bit clumsier because of the added weight, but the all-wheel drive does really help with pushing out of turns a little bit easier, giving you that sort of rear drive feel a little bit more than the, of course, front wheel drive only models do. But it's still a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is not a huge car by any means. People, tend to complain about the Countryman being too big, but this is still a pretty tiny little car. So you're still gonna have a lot of fun with it, a lot more fun than you would in a lot of its competitors. To be fair though, this does cost a lot more because this is the top of the line performance model. Despite the extra weight though, this still on paper is the fastest JCW model. So yeah, you're still going to be able to beat any other Mini in a straight line with this thing, but that might not be the priority for most of you who want something like this. You want the combination of the dynamics and the acceleration. There are more expensive options in the real luxury space, like the smaller cars from Mercedes-Benz with the AMG badges on them, things like that. But those, I don't exactly think are direct competitors to this because of their price point and the fact that they are way more powerful than this. So this kind of sits in a category all to itself. It's that sporty performance car that's not too raw or too hardcore. It's still comfortable. The ride quality is smooth enough that you will enjoy driving this around town with no issue, but you can still have a lot of fun, let it loose on the weekends on the back roads, and you get that all-wheel drive traction if you need it for inclement weather. So this is a more well-rounded vehicle on paper, especially those of you who have families, or like my parents, they have a dog, they want to be able to bring it around with them. You really can't do that in the smaller two-door. So at the end of the day, if that is something you need and you want the most fun Mini you can get, this kind of is your only choice. Also, one last thing I'll note about the Countryman is, of course, we do have the SE model, which is all electric. There is no JCW version of it, but if you want to watch Lynn Woodward's first drive review of the Countryman SE and this JCW, that'll give you a good idea of the difference between the two. And honestly, from what she described and what others have described, the SE actually, because of its battery and its lower center of gravity, it's almost just as fun, if not more fun to drive than this one. So if that's something you're interested in, there is an electric one for you. If you're in the market, make sure to click on the pop-up banner in the top right corner of your screen to find Kelley Blue Book's fair purchase price on your next John Cooper Works.